worked at that GM plant. Right there at that plant, candidate Obama said, "I believe that if our government is there to support you, this plant will be here for another 100 years." That's what he said in 2008. Well, as it turned out, that plant didn't last another year. It is locked up and empty to this day. And that's how it is in so many towns, where the recovery that was promised is nowhere in sight.
Yeah, that plant actually was closed during the Bush administration. In fact, Dana Perino, at the time, in December of 2008, when that plant was closed, George W. Bush's press secretary said, quote, "It is a sign that Detroit continues to adapt and evolve and address the change in consumer tastes and attitudes. And I think that they're adapting well. And they'll make these changes and hopefully be able to pull themselves up out of what has been a rough several years." End of quote. Dana Perino. This is because this was a plant that made SUVs, and demand for SUVs had fallen through the floor. So, Paul Ryan blaming Barack Obama for a plant that closed during George Bush's presidency. Here's another clip.
The stimulus was a case of political patronage, corporate welfare, and cronyism at their worst. You, the American people of this country, were cut out of the deal. What did taxpayers get out of the Obama stimulus? More debt. That money wasn't just spent and wasted. It was borrowed, spent, and wasted.
That money, according to the Congressional Budget Office, created 3.3 million actually, new jobs. It stopped the hemorrhaging of jobs that George Bush had left us, 700,000 jobs a month we were losing. And that money, by the way, was requested by Paul Ryan for his district, his town of Janesville, Wisconsin. He 4 different times, and in one he wrote a letter back saying, "Thank you so much. This will actually help reduce carbon dioxide emissions. Thank you so much for the stimulus money." And by the way, he forgot to mention that about a third of the stimulus, and this was, you know, a nod of the hat to Republicans, was tax cuts. So, and most of the tax cuts were actually it was the largest middle-class tax cut in the history of the United States. Here's another clip from Paul Ryan.
So they just took it all away from Medicare. $716 billion funneled out of Medicare by President Obama. An obligation we have to our parents and grandparents is being sacrificed, all to pay for a new entitlement we didn't even ask for.
This is probably the most egregious lie of all, because basically what President Obama had done, which, by the way, was also proposed in Paul Ryan's budget, which was passed by the House of Representatives, the same $716 billion, was to say, okay, and this is over a 10-year period, $700 billion. There are billions and billions of dollars that Medicare funds that are going to private insurance companies, mostly United Healthcare, but a bunch of others as well. And these private insurance companies are not providing us, you know, they're skimming all this money off the top. We can do this ourselves cheaper. We can cut the insurance companies out and save hundreds of billions of dollars. And we can use those savings to close the donut hole for seniors. So President Obama actually strengthened Medicare, and everybody knows it. I mean, this has been fact-checked to death. This is the ad that Karl Rove has been running, probably the biggest of the big lies. And as President Franklin Roosevelt said, this is their strategy. Tell a big one and keep repeating it over and over.